In today's video, I want to share some meaningful analog offline ways that you can share your art with the world. We tend to think of this as a big action that goes out into the entire world because we're so used to sharing into the void that is social media online. But sharing your work can be as simple and small as printing your work and showing it to your friends or family. That is still sharing your art, and it is still a meaningful way to do it. These next few examples are in line with that smaller, more meaningful way of sharing your art, and they could be a really nice reprieve if you're feeling very fatigued with the online world. I want to stress here that sharing is part of making art, and it's a great habit to get into to bring something to completion and make room for new ideas and art to flourish. Zines are a fantastic way to share your work. If you aren't aware of what a zine is, it's just short for magazine, and it's a small booklet or publication that is made by either an individual or a group of people in a very DIY fashion. And these can range from something that looks more like a fully fledged magazine to a stapled together Xeroxed booklet. They often center around quite niche topics or things that are sort of on the fringe of society, but they definitely don't have to. Zines are really great, and I love them because the sky is the limit. It can include a variety of content. I am somebody who has read and collected zines since I was a teenager, and they were a big part of me becoming interested in a lot of subcultures. And I have zines that are predominantly just writing. They're just photocopied reviews or opinions, essays that people have written, or they are really beautiful zines put together with just photographs in them. I have a small pile here from my collection, and these are from people all over the world, which is so cool. So in a zine, you as an artist could share your illustrations or your design work. If you are somebody who does larger scale work like sculptures, you could photograph them and then scan them into a zine, make a little pamphlet of your work, tell some stories alongside it. Or you could do a mix of all of these things and make a zine with a creative community. As you can see here, there are just so many options, and I'll drop some videos in the description below on zine making specifically, so you can go down a whole zine rabbit hole because it's so much fun. The other great thing about zines is that they aren't made with the intent to sell thousands of copies. And I think social media has become so grueling for artists because there is such an emphasis placed on the vanity metrics, the engagement, the likes. And something like a zine isn't really concerned with those things. It's more of a labor of love and to connect with a creative community. So even if you do a small run and you only sell a few, you'll feel amazing. It's not something that needs to be monetized either. You could simply give these away or pop them in places that people can grab them and share your work that way. The third thing I really like about zines, there's a lot of things, is that the actual zine making process is creative in itself. So it's like a double whammy. So when you put it together, you're choosing the font and the size and the layout, and you'll likely learn some new skills, and you'll probably enjoy the process of doing that. And it can be like another creative pursuit that you pick up. So I think it's an absolute no-brainer if you're looking for analog ways to share your art. A little hot tip here is to look up in your community if there are any book or zine fairs. These normally happen in cities or places that are more creative, but you never know, there could be a zine community right under your nose that you didn't know about. So definitely do some research there. A lot of us ideally would like our work, whatever work that is, to be shown in a physical space. That's normally the dream of most artists, right? Whether you dream of playing a show to a lot of people in a physical space, doing spoken words, or having an exhibition. That's kind of our end goal. The problem with it is it can be very costly and it can be hard to put together just by yourself. What I would suggest is something like a group show. If you're unfamiliar with the term group show, you can have either a solo show where it's just your work. This is something that normally people have later on in their career when they become more successful or known, or they have a gallery behind them helping them. And then the flip side of that is having a group show. These, like zines, tend to be more DIY, scrappy, put together, and I just think they're way more fun. I've been a part of a few group shows now, and I've definitely attended a lot. And I think it's a great way to meet people. It cuts down the cost of the space that you might have to hire. It also takes the pressure off you as an artist having to come up with a full body of work for an exhibition. You can sink a lot of time and money into having an art show for just a couple of days, and you aren't really sure where it's actually going to get you. Sharing the logistics and the cost with other people is going to take the pressure off, and you will 100% learn so much from the experience because you won't think of a lot of things until you actually do it. Like when I first did one, I hadn't really thought about the title of my image or the fact that I'd need a card with information on it going underneath it. So every time you do it, you'll learn something and you'll be more set up and ready for when you do have that solo show. Doing something together as a creative community is really enriching as well, and you will be able to feed off each other and use each other's audiences, whether someone has a big online presence or they're just connected in the community. There's power in people and collaborating with the artists that are around you. The great thing about getting people together in a space as well, especially in these social media driven times, is you might only have, 25 people show up, or maybe there's 50 people there, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And it will seem like a lot of people in a room. And it's really important that we understand that, because 25 likes seems like a fail, and it's really not. This one might seem a little weird, putting your own work up at home, whatever that kind of work is, but trust me, it will give you a huge boost. So this might seem like it's not really being shared with that many people, but I would argue that you're sharing with the most important people in your life, which are the people that are in your home, your family, and then the people that are visiting you, your close friends. Your work is on display for them to enjoy and see and maybe talk about with you. I also think that this sends a very strong message to you as a creative, because every day you will see this piece of work that you did and you brought to completion and you put up on the wall or displayed, and it's going to make you feel like an artist. And that sometimes can be really difficult for us to admit or identify with. I had a really amazing experience with one of the photographs that's hanging on my wall at home. My son pointed it out and asked me about it. He's 4, and I got to tell him that I took the photo. Mummy took that photo because she's a photographer. This one is also great if you are quite scared of sharing your work and you just want to kind of bring it to completion and put it somewhere. Doing it in the safety of your own home is great practice for when you branch out and share it with the world. We talked about zines earlier, and I want to talk about something else that's like a print or art swap, but you could also do a zine swap. I don't know about you, but I have people that I speak to online who I've never met. I'm never sure if I will meet them, and we have a lot in common, or we do a similar artistic thing. These are people that you can be kind of like art pen pals with. So consider swapping some prints or copies of your work, your zine, whatever it is that you've made, and sharing it with them. And then knowing that it's in someone else's house on the other side of the world is really cool. It's just another way of like validating your work and getting it out into the world so that you can experience what that's like in a safe way. And then also get into the habit of doing it and take those little baby steps towards maybe putting yourself forward for something bigger that's a little bit more scary. Sharing art is part of making art, and we should always be looking for ways to put our art or other people's in people's hands or in front of their faces so we can enrich the world with our ideas and start conversations. That's the whole point of art. Sharing with peers is also really great. I find it can help you with struggles and mindset, give you somebody to bounce off or get feedback from in a safe environment. This one is likely something you haven't really thought of, and we kind of downplay the word of mouth effect and just telling someone what you do, simply telling them that you are an artist, and that can be very hard for us. So remember to not downplay yourself in social situations, because you never know who you're talking to or who's listening. So make sure you tell people what it is that you do, what you enjoy, why you do it, and any accomplishments that you've had. A way to take this even further would be to have something like calling cards. So think of like a business card, but not like the American Psycho kind. Make it like a cool arty thing. You know, it could be a postcard, could be a little tiny pamphlet, a flip book, something cool that you've created that you can keep on you and kind of hand out to people when you meet someone who seems interested in art or you think you could connect with. My main art practice is photography, and I follow a lot of photography YouTube channels. And I saw a street photographer in New York shooting street portraits. And in the video, he gave out a little card with a QR code to scan on it so people could see that he was legitimate. And it just had a little blurb about him, and he handed it out. And it was so cool. I thought, what a good idea to show people what you do and like ease them if you are someone who is doing something like that where you're approaching people. And then B, just to get them to remember you by, if you give someone something, if you're at an event or an art show or you meet someone, they're going to remember you so much better than if you just have a conversation with them. Just as a reminder, make sure you stay plugged into your community, because sometimes we kind of live our lives online and we forget about those human connections or things that are happening. So look at your community centers and your galleries. What programs are they running? What events are happening? Is there any funding that you can access? All of those sorts of things are just waiting there. You just kind of have to put your name forward and then maybe get a little bit outside of your comfort zone, attending these physical things or putting yourself out there in this more physical, in front of people kind of way. I still do think that the online world has a huge part to play in your artist's journey. And if you want to do this in a mindful way that suits how you feel about being online generally, because I know that it's something that I struggle with all the time, then watch this video here to find out about a platform that you might really enjoy.